So in this opening lecture for the course, we're going to look quite broadly at war literature, and we're going to start talking about some of these sort of central focus questions of the course. But first, I want us to just cover a couple of sort of general ideas about war literature as a whole before we get into more specific aspects or topics or themes of the course. So questions like, why in general would somebody want to enlist to fight for their country? Or why would they want to enlist to go to a war? So what are some of the motivations that compel a person to enlist? I also want us to think about why, since, the ancient Greeks, what compels us to write about war? So war literature has always sort of existed. War has been something that has sort of fascinated the literary imagination. It's something that we write about, think about. Why is that so central to our sort of cultural literary texts? And another thing related to that would be, why do we want to read about war? We know it's horrifying and people die, but what is it that fascinates us about war, and what compels some of us to be, you might be one of those people who enjoys reading about war stories, who enjoys watching war films, and there are a lot of us. Maybe you're somebody who likes watching documentaries about, World War II or the Holocaust or World War I. So there are a lot of people who enjoy or get something out of reading about the experience of war. So why is that? Why do we enjoy reading about war? And then I'm going to touch on some common themes that will be sort of the threads that tie together the texts that we're going to study this term. So for our opening lecture, that's what we're going to cover. So first question that I want you to think about is, why would a person choose to fight in a war? So I have this written prompt here, so I fight because, and I want you to just think about, take a few minutes, try to generate some of the reasons why a person would choose to fight in a war. So pretend this isn't a situation where they have been conscripted or forced to serve. This is somebody's free will. They're choosing to enlist in the army, in the military. Okay, so try to think of at least 5 different reasons why a person might choose to enlist in the war, to fight. Okay, so take a few minutes, think of a list, and fill in the blank. So I fight because, etc., etc. Okay, so think of a couple of examples in your own mind before we move ahead. Okay, so some of the reasons that I thought of were some of the following. So you might fill in the blank. So I fight because I love my country. So this is one of the sort of central, I guess, reasons why somebody might choose to enlist in the army, because they love their country, they're a patriot. They think, their country is doing good work or doing the right thing, and they believe and want to protect their country and what it represents. So a love of country, one's homeland, and the sense of sort of patriotic pride or nationalistic pride is part of, somebody's reason to enlist in the military. Okay, so that's a common one, would be kind of this patriotic pride. Another one, I fight because I want to prove myself. You want to prove yourself as a man or as a woman. So this idea of proving one's sense of worth, or proving one's courage, or proving one's strength or endurance, or whatever it is that you want to prove about yourself, that you can do it, that you can fight, that you can be strong. So this is also a part of that, a reason why somebody might enlist in the Army. So there's something personal, a personal sense of accomplishment, or even a social sense of accomplishment. You want to prove to everybody else that you can, um, you know, fight for your country, to achieve something. So it could also be this aspect of proving yourself on the battlefield, and being courageous. So we have patriotism, we have this sense of sort of personal or social um, proving of oneself. And then the third one I have, so I fight because I want to protect those who cannot protect themselves. So this could also be a reason why somebody might enlist. They feel that they are, as a soldier, serving to protect those who are weak or who cannot protect themselves, and see their military service as a kind of sort of just cause, so helping those in need. So they see themselves as kind of defenders of the weak or of the vulnerable. And another reason somebody might fight, I fight because I believe in the cause. So, I mean, again, depending on which war you have in your mind, World War I, World War II, or recent sort of Iraq war, or so the war against terrorism. So all these things, you might have a person who enlists in the military because they believe strongly in the cause, that what their country is doing is right. So morally, they see themselves as on the side of the good or the right. So these are just a couple of examples that I came up with. There are, of course, other reasons why somebody might enlist in military service. There are, economic reasons. People have access to education, and they get to travel to different parts of the world, and there might be other benefits for their family in relation to housing or medical benefits. So these are all, factors that go into somebody's decision to volunteer to enlist in military service. But for our focuses, I think we're going to look more closely at this idea of proving oneself. So what is this sort of self-motivation that somebody might feel that compels them to want to prove themselves in military service? Okay, so the next question that I want us to consider is, what are some of the functions of war literature? So, like I was saying, since ancient Greece, we have been writing about war, right? The Trojan War, all these sort of battles that have sort of fascinated us and been part of our sort of collective consciousness, and have been written about. So they fascinated us, and have become the central topic of, poetry and prose and historical accounts. So we're fascinated by war, writing about war. And if we think about some of the functions that writing about war has served, we might consider some of these factors or functions of war literature. So the first one would be that war literature has been used to sort of set a standard of military protocol. So the writing about war is a kind of document to help set a standard and convey how a military system is supposed to function. And it gives us a sort of written document that we can refer back to and set up what would be the sort of rules or regulations, the protocol by which a military should function. So that's sort of a practical reason why war literature might exist. The second reason is more sort of to inspire the reader, the audience. And it inspires a love or enthusiasm of war and inspires this kind of warlike spirit. So if you think about, why there's a proliferation of war literature, in many cases it's used to sort of spur or inspire a kind of pro-war sentiment, to spark you into feeling like a warrior or having enthusiasm or love for the battle. And I don't know whether this is like an innate human thing or if it's just, certain people are drawn to violence. There's some sort of draw to depictions of violence. But I think there is a bit of, there is, a draw to depictions of warriors and that spirit and love of the battlefield. So war literature can also inspire or awaken a lot of this sort of bloodlust, even, a kind of violence that we want to read about. And then the third function of war literature has also been sort of shaping a national purpose and inspiring patriotism. So this is another function that war literature has served, especially in the sort of the heroic narratives of sort of ancient writing, pre-modern period, where you had war stories that were shared, that would sort of bolster a sense of pride for one's country or nation, and sort of consolidate or solidify some of the purpose of that country, and sort of fuel these ideas of patriotism and pride in one's nation or country. So it can be a little bit like propaganda in some senses, right? Where you sometimes, I don't know if any of you have seen American Sniper, but that film was criticized for being, too much of American kind of propaganda, right? Where it was promoting, a kind of extreme American patriotism, and was very sort of much, strongly asserting the American stance in the war against terrorism. So we have messages being sent or communicated through war literature that promote patriotism, that inspire a kind of love or appreciation of war, being a warrior. And there's kind of this glorification almost of being a hero, being a military hero, aspiring to be like a warrior or war hero, and also aspiring to sort of serve one's country and feel like you're a part of something greater. So all of these functions of war literature are definitely ingrained in sort of the heroic nature of some of those war stories. And I included here at the bottom a piece of a quotation that's sort of an important sentiment that has been sort of encapsulates what a lot of the older war literature was all about. So dulce decorum est pro patria mori comes from Horace in the Odes, and this translates to, it is sweet and an honor to die for one's fatherland. So this message is sort of part of what traditional war literature was meant